And good morning, everyone. I hope we're doing all right today. We are just about to get underway with qualifying here for the 1 hour of racing, 1 hour of Le Mans. We're going to be sharing some links out to the servers. If you're interested in joining, there's of course the descriptions that are down below. Qualifying will be getting underway in just a few moments now. But it is a rainy day here at Le Mans for our European Le Mans inspired series. Everyone's going to be out here qualifying in just a few minutes. We have two classes of LMP2 and GT3, and starting us off down the field is XJ in the LMP2 category with a staggered roll-off start for the qualifying procedure. My brain would let me work. There we go. Just give me a moment. Waiting for YouTube to work. Why did my thumbnail not change? Oh, because I didn't change my thumbnail. That's smart. I swear to God, I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. But it is a long out lap here. Everyone has 4 laps to put in a time, but that means there are only 3 flying laps for everyone to set their best time to set the grid for the race here this afternoon. A favorite to be on pole today is NWR Arkina, one of the faster drivers in the LMP2 class, having pulled off a amazing strategy at last week's race at Mugello, running a 1-stop on hard to hards, was able to outpace the field with everyone else running similar 2-stop strategies. And for today, we also have an onboard camera. Our onboard view for the day is going to be coming from Microbio in the GT3 class. I'm going to pop them up in just a moment. The LMP2s are just now hitting Mulsanne corner, and they're going to begin running, making their run back up to the start-finish line in order to start their first flying laps. As we get ready to cross the line for our first flying laps. Hello, Angry Rash. How are you doing? And of course, collisions are off. Oh, and NWR Arkina looks like they made a very tight pull coming across the final chicane. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to keep that clean, because if you mess up that final chicane, it ruins the entire lap. So we'll be looking to see if that actually was a dirty lap for them. And as we're speaking, the GT cars are approaching the line. And we have Microbio crossing the line. And from some of the radio chatter that we're hearing, it appears that some of the GT drivers are having trouble dealing with that final chicane and inheriting that time. So this next lap coming up will also be dirty. It's very important to get that final chicane right. Rose Race, nice to have you. Welcome in. Currently, Microbio is leading the GT field of cars. You can see Microbio in the picture-in-picture right now. Arkina coming around the Mulsanne corner, taking a very tight line, taking out one of the bollards, but is on a powerful drive down towards the first of the chicanes. Microbio in the picture-in-picture appears to be on a clean lap, so this one could be his first time setting. Well, this will be his first time setting lap as long as he's able to get it clean. Arkina on a very tight line coming through the final chicane, keeping it tidy on the exit. Is this a good time? Arkina does not improve on this lap by. Oh, excuse me, I misspoke. Arkina does improve on this lap by with a 3.46. XJ is currently on his way up the Dunlop. Was able to improve only minor, was only able to have a minor improvement over his initial lap, going from a 3.59 to a 3.55. While Blue Skies is much closer onto Arkina's time, and a 3.52 here in the wet is impressive. In the GT category, Enrique is able to put down. Is looking like they'll be able to put down the first time, and I am incorrect. Aspect is the first one across the line. Aspect putting down a 4.08 to lead up the GT field. Times in the GT field are very close. Aspect with a 4.08, Enrique with a 4.08763, Microbio with a 4.09367. Old GT, the front runners in the GT field separated by less than a second. From a number of penalties that are popping up on the board right now, it looks like there may be some cuts on this next lap out. Drivers might be burning this lap in order to get around to have a clean fourth lap, but it's going to all come down to having a clean exit when they get to the final chicane. Ninja, new driver here with us this weekend, able to put down a 4-second time in the BWT LMP2 car. Oh, there's a drop, it appears. Oh, unfortunately, Summer Sky in the GT class has a DNF. Now the GT field is coming around, just approaching Indianapolis as the field is making their way up on completing their outlaps. Not their outlaps, their second flyer. Bob, I hate to hear it, but hey, there are always plenty of races in the future. There is also the King of the Ring race, which is on Sundays, and there's one more round left of the multi-class championship this season. And Ninja approaches the final chicanes. And unfortunately, there does not appear to be a change in the order of the LMP2 field. Who is it that's in the spike? Blue Sky. Blue Sky in the spike puts in a 410, unfortunately worsening from the last lap to this one. Well, we accept everyone of all skill levels. It's just about getting out here and having fun and finding competition. No, XJ getting losing control going into the first chicane, it appears, and just losing the car. And that will be XJ's last chance to improve, unfortunately. Arkina currently holding on to the top spot. Going to have to see if Blue Sky is able to improve any. Arkina holding on strong with their 3.44, which is going to be a very dominating pace above the rest of the field. The next closest driver is Blue Sky with a 3.52. Arkina is looking to extend their lead on the championship currently. Getting down to the final moments. The GT field is very tight with with Enrique at the top of the 407.078. Hypo pushing a 407.510, just a little over a tenth of a second away. And then Aspect with a 983. The battle is looking like it's going to be in the GT field today, but let's not look away from the ranks in the LMP2 field with a 352.194 and a 352.897 between Blue Skies and Matthias. XJ unfortunately was able to put in a 352, but dirtying it on the first chicane is looking a little worse for the wear. XG and Arkina wrap up their qualifying. Arkina sitting strong at the top of the heap with their 344.628, which will be plenty of pace to let them pick where they want to go with today's race. Following up is Blue Skies with the best of the rest with a 351. Matthias unable to find any additional pace, taking it in with a 352.897. Now the GTs are approaching the end of their qualifying session. HYR Enrique has a big spin going into the final chicane and is not going to be able to improve their position, but is going to leave them vulnerable to the rest of the field. Let's see if anyone else is going to be able to put any better times in. Aspect, unfortunately, is not able to improve. Aspect, Space Dog, Microbio appears to be able to put a time in over... is able to put a time in over Spicy Waffle. Spicy Waffle had a number of issues getting clean laps in, but it was nail biter right down to the finish. Unfortunately, Enrique, even with the spin, is able to maintain their position at the top of the GT field, and that's going to be our starting grid for today's race. And is the lead of our LMP2 category. And there will be a brief 15-minute break until the race gets started as we give time for everyone else to get situated before the long race. On the mini screen is Microbio. Sorry, I had to make sure at least that transition was set up. And today's race is going to be a wet run around the Mulsanne circuit. We are going, like I said, we're going to be taking a short break while we wait for the rest of the drivers to get situated, and we'll be starting back up in about 15 minutes for the race proper. So give me a quick BRB as well, and we'll be back to talk about the race coming up. It's almost always best to go limited.
Smokey, you're the nice guy. I really want to say goodbye.
And you can hear me right, Aspect. It's just like, looks like it's coming by real slow. All right.
Wishing you the reason why. 'Cause my head is clear all the time I'm free in my life. Music is like a star, shining brightly from afar. Magic is just a pole star. Fight away with my guitar. I've got to know my direction, and I know there's no connection with my action. Something's flowing in my brain. I feel so good, there's no pain. Find myself in the rain. All my friends keep me sane, but I know it ain't a do when I'm standing in the sun like a Smokey, you're not my guy. I really want to say goodbye. Buddy, what's all your life? Wishing you the reason why.
I have no idea what that means. And welcome back. We're back. So we're waiting the last few minutes before we get started for today's race. We should be getting underway in the next 5-ish minutes. If you have any questions or are interested in joining the 1HR community, if you're on YouTube, you can find our links to join the Discord server down in the description below. And also make sure you like, subscribe, follow, do all of those wonderful things. That'll help me have a bit more success and hopefully to see you around for more races in the future. Tomorrow we'll be having King of the Ring, one of our final rounds for that. And then next weekend will be our 4 hours of Watkins Glen for the endurance racing series. Sorry, if I could remember things better, that'd be great. I'm gonna go on already spectate as we wait for the final few people to get in place. It'll be an hour race here. We'll be hitting it off from, I believe, a rolling start using the prehistoric grid. Please ignore the Indy car that I'm sitting in. I just grabbed something so I can be in the lobby. I really should just use the 1HR pace car for the future. I feel weird sitting, not that I have driven in the MCC in, I think a season or two, but, I feel weird, not having gloves and driving today. I don't know why. It's just, I just want to drive, but, I'm going to be doing the announcing for us all this evening, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. But from what we saw earlier today in the qualifying session, the GT field is looking like it is going to be a very tight, competitive field. Protect his privacy a little bit. Where's my stuff? Sorry, I'm confused at what I'm seeing going on with something. That's really weird. Sorry, I'm recognizing I was having some technical difficulties with YouTube and stream descriptions updating properly, but we will see how it goes. But it'll be just a minute more as the grid finishes readying up and we'll be underway. I feel like I'm missing things. Oh. All right, I'll figure that out later. Everything is working well enough for us to get by.
They came from Brazil.
I am. Huh. constantly amazed by our community. Just nothing but the best people. Yep. As long as stuff's working. And we're getting the pre-list up. The grid set for today's race and will be underway shortly. So it is going to be a rolling start today. So once the countdown goes, drivers are going to hit it. It will be interesting going into the first corner as traction is going to be limited in these slick conditions. And the field rounds the corner from the chicane, rolling up to the line. The countdown is up, and we are away racing in the wet here at Le Mans. NWR Akina gets away for a clean run. Rose Race, thank you for the subscription. I appreciate it. NWR Akina has a clean run up through Arnage into the first of the Dunlop chicanes. XJ apparently having some issues getting away and falls into the GT traffic and goes into menu to avoid an incident. Blue Sky and the rest of the LMP2s are away clear, but the GT field in the wet is right on the tail of the LMP2s as they pull through the first twisty section of the track. As they get out onto the Mulsanne straight, they will start to open up the distance. XJ is unfortunately going to be stuck down in the GT field for the time being until he gets out onto the field. Aspect's right on Enrique's bumper. They pull side by side coming down the Mulsanne with Hypo right in the draft of them. Space Dog not too far behind. Aspect will have the inside going into the first chicane, and Aspect pulls ahead as it's a four-way fight, and Space Dog slips through and pulls up into second position in the GT field, but Enrique is right on Space Dog's bumper and is going to have the draft coming down the field, but Aspect has a stronger drive coming away right now. The GTs are coming down as quickly as they can in Oh, it appears that XJ made the mistake of starting the race on slicks and finds himself being punished on this first lap. Is going to have to come into the pits very early in order to switch out the slick tires for the wets, and is going to be a wet race all day today. The GT field is still stacked on top of each other. Space Dog is going to be going in with Enrique right on his backside. Enrique takes the inside. Coming out of the Mulsanne corner, will Enrique have the drive to outpace the Corvette? Enrique looks like he's gonna take it as he gets on the inside as they run down to Indianapolis. Enrique has the better track position, getting a nose ahead, but right in the back, in their back mirrors, is Hypo in the M4. Enrique takes a very tight line, and Space Dog gets drafted to the outside. We'll have the inside on Hypo, so at least we'll not lose an additional position. But Aspect, with all the fighting right behind him, has the advantage going through. Hypo looking like he's trying to take a switchback on Space Dog, and a little bit of contact as Hypo gets on the inside of Space Dog, but Space Dog holds on to the position. In the background, Summer Sky has made their way up to the 9th overall position, which would be 5th in the GT field. Enrique has the run, is trying to catch up to Aspect. That's had nothing but clear air as they've been getting underway in this first lap of the race. And XJ is still nursing that LMP2 around the field right now as he's trying to get to the pits to get off those get off the slick tires. Hypo is looking really racy, trying to get right onto the back bumper of Space Dog as they get into the Porsche curves. With the Porsche curves to the S's, that M4 is not looking to give Space Dog any space. But off the distance up ahead, you see Aspect getting... Oh, and Hypo gets a very strong drive off of the second chicane, getting onto the start-finish straight, looking like trying to make a move on Space Dog, but isn't able to quite make it work. And it is very tight once again as they come up through the Dunlop chicane. Microbio right on the back bumper of Hypo, who's gotten checked up by Space Dog coming through that chicane. Now Microbio is looking to see if they can capitalize on Hypo being backed up by Space Dog. But when we get on the straight, the M4's power is going to start to tell as he gets the slipstream off of Space Dog coming out of coming out of Tetra Rouge. And there it is. Hypo right on the back bumper pulls along to the inside of Space Dog going into the first chicane. Who's going to be braver on the brakes? And it looks like it's Hypo. Hypo gets the full position ahead of Space Dog. Claims the line and starts to pull, but goes wide on the exit, checking up Space Dog. Space Dog pulls alongside. Will Space Dog have the drive to get ahead of him? And all this, Microbio looking for an opportunity as Space Dog gets ahead by a nose, and Space Dog continue to hold that position, maybe put out of place going into the second chicane. As Hypo opens up the line, Space Dog claims the middle of the track, but Space Dog has the inside, but Hypo is able to pull around and maintain it. Hypo shuts it down, going to the inside. Will he be able to keep it steady coming out this time? Hypo gets the drive and is going to be off in the distance. While up ahead, Aspect and Enrique are fighting once again. Enrique looking like they finally got the position on the lead off of Aspect. Aspect still strong in the draft. Not giving any room, but it's going to come down to the Mulsanne corner to see if either of them is able to pull around. It looks like Enrique's able to have a better overall drive and keeps it going and opens up the gap slightly to Aspect. Enrique making a few moves to try to break the draft, but it is not working out. As far as the Vision GT stuff, I'm not too aware about what's going on in GT. I'll have to go look that up later. But we still have a strong battle up here for first and second. And it looks like back around as they're going through Indianapolis, Microbio gets into the back bumper of Space Dog, letting him slip out of grip of Hypo by just a little bit. But Space Dog recovers well as Microbio backs off from the move. Space Dog and Hypo are still very in tight contention. Jasu, hello, how you doing? Is it set to limited and he got hit with that? All right. Oh, and unfortunately, there's a bit of a network glitch as we're coming around, and it looks like Aspect and Enrique are still right on top of each other. Aspect is trying to find some way around, but every corner, Enrique's able to hold on to that position just a little bit better. And behind, Hypo's been able to open up the lead on Space Dog by just a little bit. Tommy Cash version. And Aspect pulls alongside of Enrique coming out of Tetra Rouge. Aspect will have the inside, and Brave on the brakes is able to claim the corner and is pulling ahead on the exit, but loses a little bit on the exit, unfortunately. And right there, Enrique gets the better drive and pulls alongside. Enrique has it coming down to the second chicane. Side by side once again. Enrique, this time on the inside. Will Enrique be able to keep it steady this time and claim the corner? Enrique, strong drive all the way through, but Aspect not giving a single inch. And Aspect actually gaining a little bit of ground and pulling alongside, but falls right back behind into the draft, trying to open up the gap to the cars behind, while Hypo and Space Dog are not giving up any ground as well. Aspect battling down into the Mulsanne corner, taking out all the pylons and pulls up into the lead position. The GT field keeps swapping leads. Up ahead in the LMP2s, Matthias is closing up the gap onto Blue Skies. A fight for the overall second position as Arkina is clear and ahead on a 23-second lead, almost far enough ahead to have a free stop on this track. But coming into Indianapolis, Porsche curves. Coming into the Porsche curves, Matthias lose a little bit of ground on Blue Sky, seeming not to have quite as much confidence going through this section in these slick conditions. Blue Sky just steadily opening the gap up. Now Micro is trying to catch up to those cars that are up ahead right now. Hypo trying to close the distance between Aspect and Enrique. Now, it's hard to say if Aspect and Enrique have decided to start working together to draft as a team to try to keep their distance from the fight of Hypo, Space Dog, and Microbio. But right now, they are lying astern and coming into the S's. Microbio in the background having a bit of a crisis. Oh, Hypo goes very wide, put the wheels on the curve, and gets very sideways coming up turn one towards Dunlop. losing all the ground that he'd been putting up to get to Aspect, but that lets Space Dog start to close the gap that Hypo had been steadily eking out so far. Don't sell yourself short, Bob. With a little bit of practice, I'm sure you'll do all right. And it looks like Space Dog is closing down the distance. While Aspect has fallen just out of reach of Enrique, he's gonna have to either make up some time somewhere, or hope that Enrique makes a mistake in order to get back into the draft. But as Aspect falls off the draft of Enrique, Hypo is starting to close up on Aspect, and Aspect's looking a little bit more vulnerable on these long straights. With that said, Space Dog gets a very strong drive out of the first chicane and is starting to close up the distance on Hypo. Hypo looking like he's having a little bit of a time trying to keep that M4 well behaved coming through the chicanes. Space Dog is getting closer and closer. Those Corvette's headlights getting bigger in those M4 mirrors. A bit further down the field, Spicy Waffle in the Mustang trying to catch up to Blue Sky. Blue Sky making moves across the road, trying to break the toe. Looking to the inside, but Blue Sky has a bit of a crisis and gets a bit sideways. Spicy Waffle thinking the better of it, waiting to get to the exit, following Blue Sky all the way across the track. Deep in the slipstream, will Spicy Waffle be able to make the move? Spicy Waffle pulls around the outside, heading up towards Indianapolis. Blue Sky has the better position, but who will be braver on the brakes coming into this corner? Spicy is ahead by a nose. And Spicy gets ahead, going very deep and getting sideways, getting into the corner, getting a little bit, getting slowed down a bit on the exit of the second corner, heading down towards Arnage. Coming out of Arnage, Spicy has the position. Blue Sky is a little bit squirrely coming off the curves. Now back up ahead, Space Dog has gotten up onto the bumper of Hypo. Coming into the Porsche curve, Space Dog using all the track, getting right up against the wall. XJ still apparently having a time to catch up to the GT field even after his pit stop to get on the wets. But that is a pretty long deficit that he's going to have to be making up now. Very much out of cycle. It'll be a bit of a time to see what he's able to do to try to come up from this. Into the final chicanes, Space Dog very much right on the back bumper of Hypo. Hypo on the previous lap having a bit of a time coming up through turn one. Space Dog going all the way out to the edge of the track. And Space Dog gets into the back bumper of Hypo as he overslows coming into the Dunlop chicane. Hypo able to keep up the momentum and causing Space Dog to check up a bit and fall back. Summer Sky is closing back up on Spicy Waffle, not wanting that to be the last fight between the two of them. And Summer Sky pulls alongside, looking to claim the inside, coming into the first chicane. Having the overspeed, laid on the brakes. Oh, there's a bit of a side-by-side door banking coming through the corner. They're still alongside each other, coming all the way through the chicane, and Summer Sky closes up, going onto the exit, and has the lead, but is coming out slower than Spicy Waffle as Spicy closes down the distance on the two. And making aggressive moves down the straight, fighting to try to break toe and hold on to the lead point. Summer Sky claims the inside of the corner, and Spicy is stuck looking at the taillights of the Corvette once again, side by side on the exit of the second chicane, and Summer Sky is up ahead. Microbio and Space Dog are close on top of each other once again, very tight onto Hypo. And no Porsche's running today. And it's Space Dog and Hypo coming down the Mulsanne. Oh, excuse me, making the run up to Indianapolis. Oh, and Hypo all out of shape coming into the entry of Indianapolis, making the move down to Arnage, is able to keep the car under control, but causes Space Dog to check up and putting Microbio right on his back bumper with a little bit of contact on the exit of Arnage. Microbio trying to pick a line who he wants to draft off of as Space Dog slips in behind Hypo. And Hypo is side by side with Space Dog once again, heading into the Porsche curves. Space Dog having a bit of a time with the Corvette as Hypo is well composed coming through the final chicane. Microbio looks like he's getting alongside Space Dog in the background. They're side by side coming into turn one. Microbio on the inside claiming the position. Space Dog sliding into the background, looking for a better line coming through the Dunlop chicanes. But Microbio gets a little out of shape on the curbs and causing a little bit of collision as the sun goes down here at Le Mans. Space Dog slips back in the positions and ends up right behind Microbio. Both of them a little over a second off of Hypo up ahead. Enrique steadily putting a bigger gap between him and Aspect for the time being. While all this is going on, XJ is steadily gaining onto the back of the GT field. And I'm sorry if the redeems are still broken. I've had a recent reset, so you'll have to give me a little bit to get all the stuff working up again. A bit of a connection issue. Oh, and there's no drop. Oh no, that was Spicy. Spicy said he had a bad time anytime he ended up racing Summer Sky. And Spicy, unfortunately, has a disconnect. And we're approaching the halfway distance of the race. It looks like everyone's setting up for a one-stopper. XJ is finally into the in the back markers of the GT field, pulling up ahead of Summer Sky coming out of the Mulsanne corner and making the run up to Indianapolis. And the first LMP2 to pull the trigger is Ninja. Looking to make the long run on the back stint. Far enough ahead of the GT field, so this stop should be free from putting him back into traffic. As the lead GT cars are approaching the start-finish line. Does Ninja stay in, or will Ninja beat the GT field? And Ninja's moving, and Ninja's out the pit, so Ninja will avoid the GT traffic. And Space Dog is the first GT car into the pits. We'll have to see what kind of position this puts Space Dog in. That puts the lead of the GT field some seconds apart from each other as we get into what will likely be the final lap of the first stint. And just set him 78 seconds behind Matthias, which will be likely more than enough to keep them far and ahead. Enrique making it look easy as he's opened up 11-second gap to Aspect behind. Excuse me, I'm getting that backwards. Has opened up a 3-second gap to Aspect behind. And Arkina is the first, well, not the first, is the next LMP2 car into the pits. Is Blue Sky going to take the pit entry this time? Oh, Blue Sky looking very out of shape going through the Porsche curves, and Blue Sky's into the pits as well. It looks like all the LMP2s will be making the stop this time. The question is, does anyone decide to try to stay out this time around? India Arcane is out from their one stop for the race. XJ's been able to claw his way through most of the GT field, but is looking at very likely needing to pit this time around. The question is, what happens to the GT field as they enter into the pits this time? XJ into the pits. Now the question is, what's going to happen with the rest of the GT field? XJ is the only one into the pits, while it looks like the rest of the GT field is extending for another lap. Ahead, Microbio is catching up to Hypo. It's gonna be back in the GT field. Hypo is catching up. Has been caught up by Microbio. God, I can't see. And after the stops, XJ has found himself deep into the GT field once again. Unfortunately, the early stop puts him on the exact same strategy as the rest of the LMP2 field. So the best he can hope for is to clear the GTs with little drama. Is closing back up to Summer Sky, and on the road up ahead, Hypo is being caught by Microbio. Is Microbio going to be able to hold it down and get around Hypo this time? Microbio catching up. Hypo moves to the center of the track, forcing Microbio even further to the inside. Oh, and Hypo's a little braver on the brakes and is able to get into Indianapolis better than Microbio, but Hypo's very sideways on the exit of the second corner. Down into Arnage, both make it through clean, but there's a little bit of a wiggle as Hypo tries to get the power down. Microbio keeping up the gap and pulling up. Allowing for no gap whatsoever as him and Hypo keep the battle going up through the Porsche curves and into the S's. And the lead of the GT field finally decides to pull the trigger, as does Hypo, as does Microbio. It looks like it's going to be the time for the GTs. Space Dog, the only one that had gone out earlier. So it's a matter of where does Space Dog land himself as he pulls through. Space Dog continues to catch up into the Porsche curves. XJ finally trying to get ahead of the GTs as the GT field is in the pits. XJ clears the GT field in one bound finally. And as the rest of the GT field begins to exit the pit, Space Dog rounds the final chicane, is into the start finish straight, but the majority of the GTs are out. The only position Space Dog gains is on Summer Sky, but is only a few seconds off of Jabingus. Space Dog on hot tires, and the rest of the GT field is going to be coming out on cold and is going to see where this lands. Up ahead, Microbio exits again right on the backside of Hypo. And up ahead, Microbio is able to pull up us alongside of Hypo. And it looks like Microbio gets the lead. Space Dog holding about a 5-second gap to Hypo. Space Dog getting a position on Jabingus. Welcome back, Rose Race. Thank you for the reminder to get some water. Hypo and Microbio continuing their battle for another lap. As they get down into the Mulsanne corner, Microbio takes the lead. Now it's going to be a matter, do Microbio and Hypo decide to keep working with each other, trying to keep the distance to Space Dog and Jabingus. The Space Dog has cleared the drafting distance on Jabingus. Space Dog is still trying to close this gap up. He sees the tail lights of Microbio and Hypo off in the distance. In the midst of all this, Indio Arcana is getting into the back markers, just having finally overtaken Summer Sky. Up ahead, Aspect is steadily trying to get the distance between him and Enrique down as they get into the final laps of the race. Jabingus and Space Dog are looking like they want to have a bit of a fight now. Jabingus very close on the Space Dog going into the first corner. Space Dog not able to gain any distance off of Jabingus into the Dunlop chicane. Space Dog and Hypo keep the fight going another lap. Excuse me, Space Dog and Jabingus keep the fight going another lap. Hypo gets position ahead on get the head on Microbio. Around the back of Jabingus, we have Arkina getting ready to insert himself in the battle of the GT field. Micro having a bad drive out of Mulsanne corner, giving Hypo the position. And as that happens, Jabingus is able to do a switchback and get the lead over Space Dog as well. And from the picture-in-picture, Arkina has entered into the fray of the lead, of Hypo and Microbio. Arkina exiting on Arnage as Hypo is very sideways as he tries to put traction down on the curbing, letting Microbio close up. Space Dog and Jabingus are still tightly in tight contention with one another, and up ahead, Aspect is putting in an amazing drive, trying to eat up the distance between him and Enrique, seeing those headlights just off in the distance, barely on edge. Aspect with a tidy run through the final chicane, and up ahead, Enrique looks like he's got a bit of an issue getting power down. Entering into the first corner, Aspect has gotten in under a second. Can Aspect hold through this through the first sector and bringing it up onto the Arnage, onto the Mulsanne? Only issue is Arkina has entered into the fight, pulling up onto the back bumper of Aspect. Arkina gets alongside Aspect. Aspect giving the ground to let Arkina by. Arkina getting into the side of Enrique. And finally, as they come through Tetra Rouge, Arkina gets ahead, but it puts Aspect right on the back bumper of Enrique. Aspect's going to, as long as Aspect can get good drive out of Tetra Rouge, he'll have the slipstream coming down the Mulsanne. Aspect taking the outside line, going into the first chicane. fight for the lead of the GT3 field. Aspect pulls ahead, but who will be braver onto the brakes into the first chicane? And it is Enrique. Enrique takes the lead coming into the chicane, sealing it up on the exit, taking a bit of a wider and slower line on the exit, but is able to shut down Aspect. Enrique holding on to the position. Hypo and Microbio in the picture-in-picture are fighting in the same way. Space Dog having a time with some of the physics objects on the track, unfortunately, but Aspect and Enrique are side by side once again. This time Aspect with the inside line for the second chicane. Aspect ahead, Enrique on the back bumper, as Aspect able to get the stronger line coming through. Aspect does all right, but is not enough. Enrique is going to have the inside, gets right on the back bumper of Aspect as they pull down towards Mulsanne corner. Enrique ahead by a nose going into the Mulsanne, trying to prioritize the line, but Aspect is there. Aspect will claim the inside. And on the exit, Enrique has the goes to the inside on the exit, side by side heading up towards Indianapolis, and Enrique takes the lead off of Aspect once again, battling back and forth. Side by side into Indianapolis. The inside becomes the outside, and Enrique has the better position. Aspect tries to dive to the inside, but thinks better, trying to stay in line as they head towards Arnage. Enrique using more of the track. Is he going to be able to open up that distance? Enrique able to hold on position out of Arnage and heading up into the Porsche curves. Aspect trying to look to the inside, coming around the final Porsche curve into the S's. And back down the field a bit, Microbio and Hypo still going at it. Microbio trying to find any line around that M4, but is being shut down at every turn. Looking to the inside, but Hypo uses the better line to keep speed up, but gets a little out of shape into the final chicane and gives Microbio a bit more ground. Hypo opening up the line a little bit, putting the wheels on the outside curb, risking a spin as they did in the early laps of today's race. But Microbio is looking to capitalize on every bit of the corner, using every bit of track, taking a very tight line into the second Dunlop chicane, pulling alongside, will be on the outside as they come down into Tetra Rouge. Swapping back and forth, but Hypo will hold on to the lead, entering onto the Mulsanne, but he'll be in a vulnerable situation when the slipstream hits for Microbio. But will Microbio be able to get a good run coming through the chicane? Staying very far to the outside. Where will Micro go heading up to the first chicane? They stay in line. Microbio right on the back bumper of Hypo in the M4. Both with solid drives. Microbio for a moment looking like he wants to take a look at the outside, but thinks better and dives back into the slipstream. Hypo takes position on the middle of the track. Micro looking like he wants to look at the inside, but does not go for it. Apparently Hypo having a bit of a connection issue, making it a bit difficult for Microbio to try to pick a line to fight with. And up ahead, it looks like Aspect has fallen out of the slipstream of Enrique and is pacing just to try to catch up to him once again. Enrique's consistent pace seems to be just a little bit stronger than Aspect's, so he's having to drive with all of his might to try to catch up. Now, up ahead, coming out of Indianapolis, Microbio gets alongside of, out of Mulsanne corner. Microbio is able to get alongside of Hypo. Lap after lap, Hypo and Microbio don't want to give each other any room. Oh, and it looks like Hypo may have had an issue coming into the chicanes, and Microbio is able to get a very strong jump to get ahead of Hypo, pulling it way to the inside over the start finish straight, trying to break the draft coming into T1. Now, will Microbio be able to keep a clean drive coming through the Dunlop chicane and through Tetra Rouge in order to open the distance up? And will Hypo be able to keep it composed in order to not fall off? Hypo looking a little squirrely for the efforts. And up ahead, Aspect is steadily eating up the ground between him and Enrique once again. Three laps remain for the GT cars as the LMP2s are entering into the final laps of the race. Two laps remain for the LMP2s, 3 laps for the GT field. And bollards are all over the road as Enrique comes through Indianapolis for the final chicane. Jesus Christ. Ninja is into the pits once again. Oh, it appears Ninja may have underfueled for the race, leaving himself vulnerable to losing a position off of XJ. Hypo's looking strong and steadily trying to catch up to Microbio once again. In these last laps, does not want to. And as I'm saying that, Arcana is also in the pits once again. It looks like both Arcana and Ninja may have underfueled for the last stint of the race, unless their tires were also shot. Let's take a look at Blue Sky to see where the tire situation was. Oh, I may have overestimated it. The tires on the LMP2s are falling off as we get to the end of the race. Now, Space Dog pitted a number of laps earlier than the rest of the field. Looking like he decided to take some fresher tires a while back. As Ninja exits the pit for the final time, XJ pulls up ahead of him this time. Twos don't know what to do one stop. Oh, I actually did not recognize that. Oh, that actually makes that really interesting that it would put them in that sort of a position. So it looks like some folks, well, one, my knowledge was lacking, but the pit stop strategy is certainly something that could have improved. And back down the field, Hypo is steadily trying to get some ground onto Microbio once again, but Microbio is a little over, excuse me, Hypo's a little over second off of Microbio right now. GTs have steadily spread out over the final stint of this race. Yeah, it's a glitch. I'm still here. Apparently it said I disconnected from the race, so XJ finally goes in for their final stop. Did Ninja have an issue on their exit? Or I think it's just the lap timing glitch. Yes, the lap timing glitch. So Ninja is closing up on XJ. Ninja will likely get that position back off of XJ. Pit stop timing could have been a bigger tell for the LMP2s. It seems that all the LMP2s decided to go for the same strategy ultimately. Unfortunately, XJ was only set off by one lap. The LMP2s now XJ may have opportunity as Ninja has a very big off coming down the hill. XJ entering into Tetra Rouge as well will only be a few seconds off of Ninja as they get onto their final lap. Microbio having to deal with a bit of LMP2 traffic as unfortunately Blue Skies was into the pack of the GT field, forcing Microbio to be backed up into we're seeing Microbio to be back up into god dang it, I can't say names anymore. Could be gone or break fade maybe. Break fade isn't as much of a thing here. They just chose a really bad time to try to overtake the GT field. Unfortunately, like, it's the worst place for the LMP2s to catch the GTs. It's also the worst place for the GTs to be caught by the LMP2s, and it's doubly worse because that person was going into the pits this time round. So it just was not worth it. But as we get to it, Hypo was able to close back up onto the back bumper of Microbio. The GTs are closing up on each other once again as we get into the final lap. Well, I guess the final laps. LMP2s are entering into their final tour. Blue Sky and Ninja are very close to each other once again, and XJ isn't far behind either of them. Blue Sky having a time trying to keep LMP2 on the road. As we get into the 15th, get towards the end of the 15th lap. Hypo is right on the back bumper. It's not a new feature. He just finished the race. Oh, and coming up to the end of the penultimate lap, Microbio is thank you very much. Microbio's having a bit of trouble keeping the power down. As we get into the final lap for the LMP, as we like wrap up the final lap for the LMP2s, XJ and Ninja are very tight on each other. Oh, but Ninja goes very wide. And Blue Skies wraps up. XJ is able to pull a lead. XJ is able to pull a lead on Ninja. We'll just have to hold on to it and keep it tidy going to the end of the race. Aspect has gotten a far clear 7-second lead on to Microbio, and unless something dramatic happens, is safe in his second position. Microbio still fighting with Hypo. Then further back, Space Dog and Summer Sky are still tight on one another as well. Space Dog struggling with the Corvette in the conditions. And heading into the second chicane, Hypo is able to finally pull alongside of Microbio. But it's very sideways on the exit, but Microbio stuffed to the inside is not going to be able to find any room to run. Deep onto the draft. Making the run down to the Mulsanne. It's the final lap. Microbio's gonna have to make something happen if he wants to claim this podium spot. He looks to the outside to maximize the exit in order to get the strong run heading up towards Indianapolis. Microbio gets a very good run right back into the slipstream of Hypo. And up ahead, XJ is able to finish the race, closing up the 4th position. Microbio trying to keep close to Hypo. Hypo trying not to set a foot wrong. Microbio taking a very tight line coming through Indianapolis on the run down to Arnage. Opening up the line, trying to capitalize, and Microbio right onto the back bumper, avoiding contact, but Hypo not able to put the power down over the curve. In the run up to the Porsche curves, they're nose to tail once again. Same case for Space Dog and Summer Sky, heading back up to Hypo. And Microbio getting into the Porsche curves. Hypo is keeping it together, but Microbio will not let him have any space. Microbio looking to the inside, slipping back to the slipstream, getting into the S's. Microbio has a small wiggle in the S's. Microbio on the tighter line. Hypo goes wide. Microbio keeps it together, but loses a little bit of time trying to keep the car composed. Hypo keeps it together. Microbio is clear on the back bumper, but will he get... Oh, Microbio very out of shape trying to cross the line. And they are through. Unfortunately, Microbio unable to pull the position. Jabingus able to cross the line clear. And it looks like Space Dog at the last bit is able to open up the distance between him and Summer Sky. And Space Dog and Summer Sky will round us out to finish up the 1 hour of Le Mans. If you've been with us for today's race, thank you very much. We appreciate you for joining us for the watch. This is the penultimate round of the multi-class championship for season 8. But unfortunately, I do not believe I'll be able to broadcast. I unfortunately will be unlikely to broadcast the final round as we make the trip back to America to go to Road Atlanta. So that's going to be today's race. So thank you for tuning in and watching. If you are a fan, please make sure you like and subscribe. I'll be back with more races for the multi-class championship. going into the next season. If you're interested in joining the racing, please find the links to the 1HOR community down in the YouTube description. I really need to put that somewhere onto the Twitch page, but we'll work that out in the future. Congratulations to our winners today, NWR Akina, Matthias, and Blue Skies. Congratulations on the podium in the LMP2 category, and Enrique, Aspect, and Hypo, congratulations on your podium in the GT3 field. We will be back this evening with PPRL NASCAR Racing. It will be our first road course event of the season. And then tomorrow I will be back for King of the Ring with 1HOR, which is our GT3 challenge around the Nürburgring full. So thank you very much. I hope you all have a wonderful day. We are out.